studying trends in child and family well-being, adolescent development, effective programs and practices, the determinants and consequences of adolescent parenthood, the effects of poverty and welfare on children, and positive development. And she also has a lot of accolades here that I'm not going to read because I really want her to get a chance to speak. So please do try to stay here.
Thank you. Can you hear me if I sit here?
The microphone's on.
It's on.
There you go. Okay. I'm a youth development person, and I think one of the ways that we in youth development are looking to get resources is by reducing residential placements in prisons and child welfare systems, and then reinvesting that money back into positive youth development and increased prevention. So I just wanted to comment on that. I want to acknowledge, I guess, our funders, Bloomberg Philanthropies and AT&T Foundation. Just a really quick introduction to Child Trends. We were founded in 1979 to monitor the well-being of America's children. So it's always been a positive spin, nonprofit, nonpartisan, approximately 100 people. We cover a lot of research areas. One thing we have is a links database. We have over about 700 random assignment studies in our links database, including ones that don't work as well as the ones that do work. And I think it's really important to know what doesn't work, so we stop repeating. Training again. This is a study making the grade, assessing the evidence for integrated student supports. So to start out, what are integrated student supports? This is an emerging field of practice, so it's not a program, it's a practice. Relies on the coordination of prevention and intervention services for students and for families in order to reduce academic but also non-academic barriers to learning with the goal of increasing the odds of school success and also to expand positive youth development. Research shows educational success is associated with less delinquency and less violence. So increasing school success can lead to the goal of less juvenile justice problems. So why did we examine, I'm going to call it ISS, Integrated Student Supports, it's quicker. Because there is a proliferation of these integrated programs around the country, because we have a real problem in the United States with low educational achievement, but also substantial disparities, it suggests a need for new and integrated kinds of approaches. There's ongoing evidence of difficulties and disadvantages among U.S. students. We have done some analyses of the National Survey of Children's Health on ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, and this is a screening instrument on background variables, whether a parent would die or whether the family experienced divorce or separation, whether an adult was in prison or jail, whether the child lived with someone who had mental illness or suicide issues, substance use, experienced economic hardship, or witnessed violence. So on the next slide, shows a distribution for adolescents 12 to 17. These are nationally representative data, the first we've ever had. One thing you'll see is that half the kids have none of these ACEs. I mean, there's something else, but they don't have any of these ACEs, and another quarter have one. So it's kind of positive in a sense, but that leaves a quarter of all American adolescents who have 2 or more of these adverse childhood experiences, and they're facing these issues and suggesting a real need. Fortunately, I'm going right straight to the key findings. First of all, there is an emerging evidence base that this kind of integrated student supports model can contribute to student academic progress. I have to say it's thin, but it's growing. Preliminary studies find a positive return on investment, and ISS is a student-centered approach, and therefore it is firmly grounded in child and youth development research, and I think that is its strongest asset. It is really embedded in everything we know about child development. It's also aligned with empirical research on the varied factors that promote educational success. Certainly we've been through a test-taking era in educational programming, and I think we're coming out of that just in the same way that juvenile justice is coming out of an incarceration era, where we understand that there are other kinds of things that affect the success of children and youth, and we can just be a little broader in our perspective. Unfortunately, our understanding of ISS core elements is general. We don't know the specific things that make it work. That seems to be true in a lot of areas. But we do know that high-quality implementation is important to achieve positive outcomes, another cross-cutting theme. So this review involved 7 steps. You can read them. We looked at them in practice. We did a synthesis of educational research. We did new empirical analyses. We looked at child development theory. We looked at outcome evaluations, cost-benefit analyses, and then we looked at implementation. So it was a very substantial review. So turning quickly to each of those things that we did, we looked at 9 ISS approaches on the ground. And this, as I said, is a widespread approach. These 9 all operate in multiple states and school districts. They serve an estimated 1.5 million at-risk students. About 75% of the students in these ISS schools are Black or Hispanic. So we found both similarities and differences across the models. Similarities, they have common core components, broadly speaking, and that's kind of interesting because they've come up from the ground in very different places and with very different people. But they have common core components. They target needs and offer supports for the students, schools, and families. And the supports are tailored to the needs of the community, school, and students. As Rico said, communities are different, so the supports are tailored. But the big difference is that they implement these core components in quite different ways. So, the 5 core elements, number 1 is a needs assessment. Very compatible again. This needs assessment looks at students and the school. Second is coordinated student support. And this is to develop and provide supports based on the needs assessment. The third is to form community partnerships to address the needs, and these coordinated supports are often provided by the school, but oftentimes they're also in the community, and so it really has to be coordinated. I think one of the comments made earlier is that governments do not communicate. It is the very essence of this approach that they communicate, that they have a common database, that they coordinate, that they collaborate. It's just how it works. The fourth is integration within the schools. And this means integration within the school principal, the teachers, the staff of the organization that is bringing in all these services, and everyone else who's in the school setting and affects the child. And fifth, is data, the use of data to track outcomes. And I have to say, as a researcher, I was pleasantly surprised to see the extent to which data, it's 2 of the 5 core elements here, addressing needs and then monitoring and tracking outcomes. And that really reflects the importance that I think people are coming to realize of being data-driven and evidence-based. So just examples of common supports, they're at the school level, the family level, and the student level. And you can see that they are both academic and non-academic, and they address at the family level the social services that the families may need, or the parent education and family counseling. And at the school level, they might include efforts to improve school climate, such as bullying, but also efforts to improve school effectiveness on educational outcomes. Next chart is the theory of change. Based on these 9 models, we developed this theory of change and presented it to a number of groups, and we've gotten basically no blowback. It seems to be pretty much what they are really trying to do. You start at the far right. The goal is to improve educational outcomes. And no question about that. High school graduation, post-secondary degree. But in the next, going to the left, in order to get there, you need to get academic outcomes, but also non-academic outcomes, like socio-emotional learning and behavior. The supports in the middle column are the ones I just read: physical and mental health, in-school and expanded learning time for the kids, school climate and effectiveness at the school level, and then at the family level, parent education, family counseling, social services. The core components are the 5 components I mentioned: needs assessment, community partnerships, coordinated student support, integration, and data tracking. And this is a school model, but it recognizes that the influential factors are not just the student in the school, but also the family and the community. It's explicit. Next, we assess the evidence for the ISS model and the theory of change. And we find that it really is aligned with what we know about child and youth development in the following ways. It's child-centered. It's not adult-centered or teacher-centered or union-centered. It's child-centered. It's a life course perspective. In other words, what happens to a child at one age is recognized, understood, to affect what happens to them later. It's positive youth development, so it focuses on positive relationships, positive goals, positive behaviors, and positive supports. It has a whole child perspective, so children are not just little education icons. They are whole people with mental health needs, with physical health needs, with social and emotional behavioral issues. It has a prevention focus. Very specifically, the interventions are designed to prevent problems. Many of them are also tiered, so it has a treatment focus as well for kids who are presenting issues, but by and large, it has a prevention focus. And then it's built on ecological theory, which recognizes that the child or youth is affected by a variety of influences, shown on this next slide. Explicitly, that's state and federal policy, neighborhood factors, school, peers, parent and family, as well as individual differences affect how the child develops. We also looked at all of these levels in our review of research, and the research is just really clear that educational outcomes are driven by a variety of influences. So the three largest we found, one was math score, not surprising. Another was family engagement. The third was teen pregnancy. Those are from very different domains, very different kinds of factors, but by and large, most of the predictors had very small effects. This, which really argues for me the importance of having a comprehensive intervention strategy here. People keep looking for the silver bullet, but if it existed, we already have found it. It doesn't. We also did a review of evaluations to see whether or not the ISS models improve academic and non-academic outcomes. And we looked across 36 evaluations and found, I think it's 11. I'm going to skip the next slide and go to what we found. The findings are promising. There are some improvements in school progress, attendance, math, reading, and overall GPA, but there are a couple of randomized studies, mostly quasi-experimental. As always, the effects are in the quasi-experimental studies, much less so in the random assignment. Also, and very importantly, given the theory of change that I showed, there's been very little work on the non-academic outcomes. I mean, they are recognized as critical drivers, and yet they're not studied in the evaluations very extensively. We need to know that. So, also skipping the next slide. Cost effectiveness. There are 3 studies that estimate long-term payback. I mean, since we're sitting in the Rayburn building, we should gotta recognize this is really important. They're all positive. They're all very large. They use very different methodologies. They involve extremely complex assumptions and methods. And one particularly critical one is that the services and programs that are actually provided by the ISS model are included as a cost, but the community offerings are not. So if you have like an AmeriCorps volunteer, what the school pays is counted, but not all the selecting and the training and bringing them there, that's not counted. But this is aligned with the ISS theory of change, that these services are available and they are underused and have to be taken advantage of. I think it is a question, as other people have raised, though, whether there really are a lot of unused services in communities, whether there is no real community incremental cost. All those points aside, I think that it's pretty clear that the return on investment is greater than $1. You can nail it down a little more precisely, but it's more than $1. Implementation evaluations. The communities and schools did a really interesting evaluation of the implementation of their program according to the rubrics that they're trying to achieve. And they found that this is quasi-experimental, they found that when the implementation was low quality, it was like there was no program at all. students when it was high quality. So you can, I think, conclude that NAC comports with other studies that high quality implementation is key, but we just don't know what exactly those things that need to be the core components are. So just in sum, across ISS models, the details differ. The overarching approaches are quite similar, but it's important that it's comprehensive services. It's not just academic. They are integrated. They are not just co-located, but they are person-based or student-focused. They are place-based, but they are really child and student-focused. That needs assessments are conducted and are actually used in ongoing data and monitoring are emphasized, and also